natural, everyday kind of frog in the throat situation. Okay, so time and motion. Things pass in time, we call that temporal, things that are related to time. So in the art world, there might be a work that takes place over a certain period of time. And that could be a very short amount of time or a very long amount of time. Let's take a look at two examples of temporal works of art. The first is by Andy Goldsworthy, who is an artist that uses his own body as well as nature to create temporal works of art works that are related to time. Bye-bye. Okay, so that was one example of a temporal work of art by Andy Goldsworthy. I think it's kind of cool how he uses something as simple as rainfall and masking that space that his body takes up on the ground to create this kind of like silhouette of his own body. Marina Abramović is another artist who creates time-based work or temporal work using her own body. She does these performance pieces. This is an example of one that unfolded over a very long period of time. It was at the Museum of Modern Art in New York a couple of years ago, where she sat at this table every day that the museum was open for the entire time that the museum was open every day. And she would sit with a different visitor to the museum for as long as they wanted to sit there. Let's take a look at how that temporal piece unfolded.
For artist is present, I decide to be there in MoMA entire duration of the time of the opening of the museum, which means 3 months sitting there. I knew this is a big chance to show the power of performance art. I prepared for this piece almost a year because I knew it's going to be physically so demanding, so difficult. The curator was just telling me, you have to be ready that in the front of you will be empty chair most of the time. Because nobody could imagine in New York, the most busy place in the world, that would anybody take time to sit and just engage in mutual gaze with me. So it was complete surprise for myself, to the entire staff of MoMA, and to everybody else. This enormous need of the humans to actually have a contact. How we are so alienated from each other, how this society makes us really distant. You know, we are texting each other messages without seeing each other, and we just live around the corner from each other. So many stories of loneliness. And the people not just occupy the chair. There was no 1 second when this chair was empty. They start sleeping outside of the museum, and they start waiting for hours and hours and coming back. And what is happening there? I'm looking at you. You're photographed, you're filmed, you're observed by everybody else in this atrium. So there is nowhere to go but into yourself. At the moment when you really get into yourself, that moment bursting with emotions, with so much feelings. And this is why so many people start crying. They become such an important experience in their life.
All right, so a time-based artwork is called a temporal artwork. And an artwork may last, like I said, for a short amount of time or a long amount of time. What we are talking about or referring to there is the duration, how long an actual or recorded event lasts, or maybe how long it seems to last. An artist that has worked a lot with this concept of duration is Tei-Ching Hsieh. And he is a Taiwanese artist who created a number of performance pieces like this one we see on the screen, which was called Time Clock Piece. He made this in 1980 to 81. And the piece unfolded like this. He went into work every day and he punched a time clock. And after he punched in to the time clock, he would take a photo of himself. So he was punching the time clock every hour, every day for an entire year. And every time he punched the time clock, he took a photo of himself. And now I'm talking like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days total. So he has this collection of photographs of himself every hour for a year that he turned into a film. We might also talk about tempo, the speed at which an activity takes place or seems to take place. Again, so tempo could be something that's actual, or it might be our perception. So a lot of these terms refer to real versus perceived time, passage of time. You might think of tempo in relation to music if you've ever played a musical instrument and they talk about, well, it has a really fast tempo or it has a really slow tempo. Art can also have a tempo, especially if we're talking about art that incorporates music, such as this performance piece that has been edited into a video piece by Lorna Simpson. And this is called Easy to Remember. All right, you know what? I'm gonna pause it right there because I think you get the idea. This is a piece that has a number of different individuals humming the same melody from memory. So the name of the song is easy to remember, and the name of the piece is easy to remember because they're all remembering or trying to remember the melody just off the top of their head and singing it at the tempo in which they believe it plays out at. And then she cobbled together all of these different videos of people humming to see how they're not quite in sync. So everybody's memory of that tempo of the song is slightly different. Time can also be affected through editing. So if you know or have studied anything about film editing, you know that editing in film is used to arrange a series of shots to convey a cohesive narrative or a sequence. So editing can affect the viewer's sense of tempo, using either fast or slow cuts, can also compress or expand time and convey a lot of information in little time. I want to show you just the beginning of this top 10 most effective editing moments that show the impact that editing can have on tempo.
Kicking us off at number 10, the beginning of City of God. Bursting with energy, the very first shots of Cidade de Deus thrust us into the rhythm of music and the violence of the underbelly of Rio. Jump cuts, repeated action, frenetic montage, and a final bullet-time graphic match with life sound like a recipe for disaster. But in City of God, they don't just work, they electrify the screen.
So in that example, you saw how those really fast cuts can affect the tempo of a film, for example. Now, you've probably also seen a number of what are called montage sequences. They're in any number of classical Hollywood films. One example, one of the more famous examples would be from Rocky. So let's take a look at how this montage sequence and the use of editing can compress a long period of time and a lot of information into a short amount of time through film editing. Theme song. All right, so we understand that a long period of time is being condensed into a short period of time here through the magic of movie editing. Capturing time is something that storyboards do for film as well. So you have the image accompanied by the script, the dialogue, and that all gives us a sense of how this narrative is playing out over time in the film. We might also see this in graphic novels or comic books. It's what we call implied time, the illusion of time and its passing. So we have characters in different parts of the story here, walking up the stairs, coming down the stairs, and a telephone call playing out all in one panel. So it's the illusion or implication of time passing. You might also capture time in a photograph, just a still photograph, which tends to be a really powerful and evocative way to capture time, to capture a moment in time, as these 3 photographs do. Whether it's the '68 Olympics, or in this case, a monk who has self-immolated or set himself on fire as a protest to the war, or even the migrant mother, the photograph that a lot of you wrote about for your compare and contrast essay, which represents the moment of the Great Depression in America's history. Or, you know, you can capture a moment in time as a snapshot, a quick moment, as the French photographer Henri Cartier-Bresson did in this example. And that's exactly what you're going to do for your next creative project. All right, as always, if there are any questions about that assignment, let me know. And in the meantime, stop share. And in the meantime, please check out the second video on motion.